Good morning, second graders. Today we are on page 205 and we are on Unit 12, Lesson 4. We are going to be continuing telling time, but today we're going to add some new things to it. So our objective is going to be a little bit different. It says, today I will tell time to the hour, half hour, quarter hour, and 5 minutes. Okay, that is a long goal or objective today. But that is what we're going to be doing. So we've been telling time to the 5 minutes. Notice now we added to the hour, half hour, and quarter hour. So what does that actually mean? Okay, before we do our vocabulary or steps, I'm going to draw something with you. And I want you to do your very best to draw it with me. So we're going to draw 2 circles. And these are going to kind of represent our face clocks or our analog clocks. So I want you to think about when the hands move around the clock, they move in this direction. We're going to trace one and put an arrow. That's the direction they move. That's called clockwise because the hands are moving in this direction. Okay. So I also want us to take a line and cut this one in 2 parts. Okay, so notice that if the hands are here, this would be half of our clock. So if my hands have only gone this far and they stopped right there, that means they moved halfway around the clock and then there was still half left. So that would be the hands moved halfway around the clock. So we call that half. Okay, now I want us to look at our next circle and I want us to cut it in half again this way. And then I want us to cut it this way. So what I've now done is I've cut or divided or split my circle or my face clock into how many parts? 1, 2, 3, 4. Sometimes when we cut things into 4 parts, we call them quarters. So if you think about maybe like quartered coins, that's $1. 4 quarters equals $1. We've taken the dollar and cut it into 4 parts. Well, here I took my clock and cut it into 4 parts. So if my hand is moving and it's moved here, that has moved 1 quarter. 1 quarter. Now, if it moved all the way here, we already said that was halfway. But watch here. We're going to do another one. We're going to move it, move it, move it. Keep going, and I want you to stop right there. If our hand had gone all this way, let's look at what's left. It still has 1 quarter to go. So I want us to try and kind of keep this in mind when we read our vocabulary and see if this helps make sense. Okay, so in our vocabulary we have 2 things that talk about quarters. So we have something called a quarter after. A quarter after. And that says when the minute hand is pointing towards the 3 and it is a quarter of the way around the clock. So example 8:15 or a quarter after 8. So if the minute hand had only gone this far, that's where the 3 is located. And that would be a quarter after. So it's only gone 1 quarter. Okay, let's read the next part. Quarter of or quarter till. These mean the same thing. That's just 2 ways to say it. They mean the exact same thing. when the minute hand is pointing towards the 9 and it is a quarter away from the next hour. So if it had gone all this way and it stopped right there, it stops at the 9, and that means it's only a quarter of the way left. So we call that a quarter of or a quarter till. It only had 1 quarter to go still. Okay, then we have something called half past. So it says, when the minute hand is 1/2 past the hour on the 30 mark. So if the minute hand was going this direction and it stopped right here on the 6, it's gone half past. So those are the words that we're going to be using today in our lesson. And you don't have to memorize them right now because you can just look back and use them to help you. You can use this page to help you. Okay, so boys and girls, I picked up my red pen, which means you are going to sit back and watch me do some of these. So here is my first one. Okay, my first one says, in the directions, they want me to write the time shown on the clock in the space below. Okay, so remember, this is what we did yesterday. I just had to look at the clock and write the time. Okay, ready? So what do I see? I see a short hour hand, because I always start with my hour hand first. So I see a short hour hand, and it's past the 4, but it didn't hit the 5 yet. So my hour is 4, and my minute hand is right here. So remember, for my minute, I start here and I skip count by 5s. So my first 5 always goes on the 1. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, and 30. Okay, so my minutes are 30. Okay, now here's where our new part is. It says another way to write this is, okay, so they want another way to write this. Well, look at my minute hand. My minute hand went how far? It stopped right there. So it's gone halfway. So I could say, now let's look at my notes to help me. For the half, I only have this, half past. So it's not 4, it's more than 4. So I could call this half past 4 o'clock. So it went more than 4. Half past 4 o'clock is how I could say that. Okay, and again, notice I just used my notes to help me with that. I used my notes to help with that. Sometimes we'll just even say half past 4. Okay, let's see what another one looks like. All right, so I'm gonna start by telling my time, and I notice my shorthand is past the 5, but it's not at the 6 yet. So my shorthand tells me my hour is 5, and then my minute hand, I'm gonna skip count starting here, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45. So my minutes is 45. So my time is 5:45. They want another way to write this. Well, what has my minute hand done? My minute hand has started here and it stopped right here on the 9. So let's look at our notes and see what we can use to help us. Right here it says, when the minute hand is pointing towards the 9, we call that a quarter of or a quarter till. So it's past 5 o'clock and it only has a quarter to go to get to 6 o'clock. So this would be a quarter till 6. So till's like until, like almost. So think about that till as until. So it's a quarter until or quarter till 6. It's almost 6 o'clock. Okay, let's see one more. So first I need to tell my time. So I notice my shorthand is after the 12, but it didn't yet hit the 1. So my hour is 12. And my minute hand is right here. So if I skip count by 5s, I get 5, 10, 15. So my time is 12:15. And what has my minute hand done? It started here and it went right there. So my minute hand stopped at the 3. So we could use our notes to help us. What do we do when it stops at the 3? Quarter after. So when the minute hand is pointing towards the number 3. Okay, so that means that it's a little bit past 12. It's just moved a little bit. So we would call this, it's a quarter after 12. So notice the 2 quarter ones. When it's close to the next hour, we use the next hour because we're saying like it's almost 6, or we're only a little bit away until it's 6. But when it's just a little bit after, we use the other hour that it used to be. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, let's try some together. We are on page 206. And let's look at our first one. It says, write the time shown on the clock in the space below. Okay, so let's look at our hour time. And this one's a little tricky. I might use my ruler just to show you. Oh, when I look at it, it's actually past the 2. So I know it's a tiny bit past the 2, but it didn't hit the 3 yet. And I know that's my shorthand, which tells me it's my hour hand. Okay, our minute hand, we're gonna start at the 12 and then skip count 5, 10, 15. So our minutes is 15. Okay, so another way to write this is how much has the minute hand gone? It's only gone that much. Our minute hand has only gone this far. So if we think about our circle, our minute hand is only covered a quarter. Okay, our minute hand is only covered a quarter. So we're gonna say this is a quarter past 2. So because it's closer to being 2 o'clock than to 3 o'clock. That's why we're gonna use the 2 here. It's a quarter past 2. Okay, let's look at our next one. Okay, so what do I see? I see my short hour hand is past the 6, but it's not at the 7 yet. So our hour is 6, and then let's skip count by 5s. So we start here and go 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. Okay, so our time is 6:30. And how far did our minute hand do? If it started here and it stopped there, it went halfway around. It went halfway around. So we would call this half past 6. Half past 6. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, don't feel like you need to memorize that again. If you're struggling, refer to this to help you. And today you are going to be turning the page and doing page 207 and 208. Have a good day.